an early preview of the NWSL as well. Week 7, it's happening. I don't know. Lucky number 7. Who's gonna fall in line with all the superstitions, right? Let's
Yeah.
start. Maybe we have to start with some undefeated teams because believe it or not, we're rolling into week 7 and we've still got not one, but 2 undefeated teams in NWSL regular season thus far. Unbeaten are Portland Thorns FC, and they will go up against Houston Dash on Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So kicking things off a little bit differently, right? We sometimes get a big cluster of games on Saturday, maybe one on Sunday, but this is another one of those weekends, Lisa, where we get to kind of, spread out the joy of NWSL soccer with some games throughout Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. When we're looking at Portland Thorns FC, I mean, we kicked off this segment talking about undefeated teams, so let's start with them. Who you got in this one? Are the Thorns just looking like the sort of team that they're just so in form at this moment? They're just making it impossible to pick against them.
Yeah, I mean, this matchup is my top matchup. One of my top 6 of the 6, one of my top to watch this weekend. And I like that we're starting the show with it. Brings a little excitement to the episode today because Portland versus Houston is going to be in Houston. So Dash will be hosting this one at home. But when we look at Portland, this is an undefeated team, as you talked about, but they're coming off back-to-back 3-3 draws. That's a lot of goals against North Carolina and Angel City. And in both of those back-to-back draws, Portland ultimately was responding in all of those games. Yes, there were moments where they took the lead, whether it was 2-1 or 1-0 in these two games. However, the final goals were scored by Portland in order to draw those games. Remember, against Angel City, it was a Bella Bigsby goalkeeper up for the corner kick, back heel finds the back of the net. And then against North Carolina, it was a stoppage time goal at the end of the game for Portland to equalize again. So in both of those, I'm going to say that Portland was the one kind of on the offense at the end of those games because they were the ones looking to get a goal, looking to push for that draw, looking to split points instead of being the ones kind of controlling the game and saying, okay, let's slow it down. Which to me says a lot about the competition that they played against. And now they are going up against a huge Houston Dash side that is coming off a bit of a dip in their performance. They haven't won a game since 5 games ago. They're coming off back-to-back losses in the regular season. Last week against OL Reign, and then before that in the regular season against North Carolina Courage. So they've also been shut out in those last 2 games. They weren't able to get a goal in their last 3 regular season games because before that it was a 0-0 draw against Washington Spirit. So Houston's on a bit of a scoring drought at this point, which is a little bit concerning for me as they go up against this Portland side that clearly knows how to score, right? 6 goals in their last 2 games that they have. But I honestly think that the way Portland's been going with things, they've also given up a lot of goals and given up a lot of opportunities. And I hate to do this, but I'm starting the weekend out on a draw. I don't think Portland's going to turn things around. They've got back-to-back draws. They are still undefeated, and they're going to remain undefeated against Houston, but they're going to travel to Texas, and it's going to be a draw between these two sides.
Listen, I love it. I respect it. This was a game that I was going back and forth on a little bit as well. And I don't know. I think it's for the reasons that you're talking about, the inconsistencies a little bit at this point, that maybe I am leaning more one way towards one way than the other. A draw was absolutely in the cards for me as well between these two sides, because on the other side of things for Houston, specifically the host, I'm also looking for that response. While we're looking at maybe the record, 2 back-to-back games for Portland, conceding 6 goals over those 2 games. That's tough. I think obviously that's something you're circling automatically as a coaching staff, as players. You're like, okay, we got to tighten things up here defensively. But for the Houston Dash side of things, looking over the course of their last couple of games, it's real streaky for me. So I just there's just not a lot of concrete concrete evidence there where there's enough for me to say, like, you know what, Houston's going to take this all the way. This is the game where they're going to like get things back on track. I don't know if this is that game. There's a there's moments and stretches of time in the play when we're looking at the dash and we're just like, yes, this is promising, this is good. They're starting to get it together. And there are others where maybe they're navigating things in the pitch, and you see every once in a while those tactical timeouts when all of a sudden players go to the side of the pitch, and there's Sam Lady with his whiteboard moving around the pieces and reminding the players what they got, and yet we're not necessarily seeing it. So I'm just kind of like, is there a disconnect? What are we going to see? Like, we're at week 7, where I think fully in that second quarter of the season, we need to start seeing what teams are about. Otherwise, it's going to be a very, very long year.
Yeah, consistency. That's the biggest like thing that you have to be seeing at this point. And whether it's consistently good or a consistency that's not so great right now. And like looking at Portland, I think that they've struggled a bit defensively now. They've been without Becky Sauerbrunn, captain, center back, U.S. international, for the last 2 games.
Yeah.
And 3 games ago, she came out in the middle of that game. So that plays a factor in the defensive shape of Portland. I also think Bella Bixby's had some tough games in goal for the Thorns. She's let in some goals that she probably should have saved.
I hear you in terms of like going for the draw, because I think you can it's not so much that you can make a case for either team to like pull off the win. It's almost like you can make a case for either team to maybe end up with the oops, end up with the mistake, and then maybe
that's what I mean. Yeah,
drop
exactly.
the points. But I'm gonna go the other way. I'm gonna go in that maybe it's gonna come down to some midfield areas here on the pitch for these 2 teams. And when I'm looking at that middle third specifically, I just think Portland has way more in the arsenal than Houston does. Yeah. So I'm actually going to go with Thorns on the road against the Dash in this one.
I like that. I honestly like that pick. I mean, the way that they've put up goals, Crystal Dunn is a force in that midfield. They've got so many great pieces. Yeah. All right. I like it. I'm going with the draw between these 2 sides. Portland's going to stay undefeated for both of us because you're going with the Portland win.
Lock it in. We're locking it into the notebook. Lisa's keeping it on track for us.
The notebook is back this year. It's always here.
Just in case people were wondering, it's back. Don't worry, never left. Let's pivot. Let's talk about the other undefeated team in the league right now. We are going to preview Angel City versus Washington Spirit, but we also got to chat a little bit about their Challenge Cup game that just took place. Maybe we could recap Spirit and their performance in the lone game that took place on Wednesday this week, but 4-2 win over Orlando Pride for the Spirit, going into Los Angeles and going head to head between these 2 sides. We didn't see Trinity Rodman get any minutes in this Challenge Cup game. But we did see Sanchez come in late into the game, also got a goal. We got to see Ashley Hatch get into the mix a little bit. No Sullivan, so there's some players who got some rest this week. There's some players who are, going to go on a, quick turnaround to LA, but there are some players who are completely ready and navigated this week as sort of just like a regular week of preparation and going on the road. So they remain undefeated. They also pick up those first points for themselves in Challenge Cup. A little bit of a momentum here. Does that sway a pick when people are looking at this matchup and looking to go with either Angel City or the Washington Spirit?
For me, I'm going with Washington Spirit, ripping the Band-Aid off, letting everyone know about it. In reference to the Challenge Cup midweek game that happened last night, Wednesday night, ahead of this game for Washington Spirit, ahead of their game against Angel City, which is Saturday. So pretty quick turnaround. But as you talked about, a lot of rest for some big players. You and I didn't want to see Trinity Rodman in the midweek. I didn't want to see Andy Sullivan either. We didn't get to see them. It was perfect. Give them rest. They don't need to play. I also wanted to see Chloe Ricketts get the start. 2 claps for my girl Ricketts. She got the start. Fantastic. This was like a thrilling game. 4-2. Ultimately, Washington gets the win over Orlando. It was like a chaos, just chaotic. If you want a chaotic game, go back and watch this one because it had the makings of a lot of fun, goals, vibes, celebrations, a back heel, a couple worldies from outside the box. Really good action. But the way that Washington is going right now, we talked about it, Portland versus Houston, the consistency that we need to start seeing from teams. It's now week 7. We need teams to have identity. We need them to have consistency. And Washington Spirit to me is is clicking in all the right places. I think Mark Parsons is putting the right combination of players together on the pitch to allow them to succeed. Even in the midweek, Washington Spirit switched up. They actually went with a 4-4-2 diamond in the midfield, which we haven't seen before from this team this year and in years past. But now under Mark Parsons, he's switching it up and he's asking more of his players, which allows them to have the knowledge and the freedom and the understanding to be able to play a little bit more fluidity, whether they're in a 4-3-3 or a 4-4-2. They have the knowledge of those other positions and those other roles and the understanding of how everyone else on the field is supposed to be doing their job, which allows them to do their job better individually. It's all these little individuals working so well together to make up the collective that is the 11 on a field for Washington Spirit. And I'm really impressed with how it's going for them. On the Angel City side, they're coming off a pretty big win over Kansas City, 3-2. And then before that, a 3-3 draw against Portland. So, man, Angel City can score. They've got 6 goals that they've put away in the last 2 games. And they did it both without Julie Ertz. Now, unsure of her availability in this match. She wasn't available the last 2 games that Angel City played. Excused absences for her. That's a midweek Challenge Cup last week, the regular season in week 6 against Kansas City for Angel City. Will she be back? I think that does change things a little bit. That might sway my decision, but as of right now, I'm going to say that she's not available. I'm just going to go with that. Who knows? Yeah. And I'm going to give Washington the win in this one. I think it'll be a little bit of a different story though if Ertz is playing.
Yeah, I'm with you. Look, we do our previews. We try to get a kickstart early on the weekend here for folks, but that also means that we're doing these ahead of any availability reports that drop. So we're just, kind of guesstimating here, right, in terms of who may or may not be available within these matches. And I'm with you. I think Julie Ertz has she's shown already at this point, even with just 2 appearances with Angel City, the type of caliber of player she is and how her teammates around her sort of continue to elevate their play as well when she's available for them on the pitch. I don't know. I think, look, we all know at this point that any team that goes on the road to Los Angeles are going to have to deal with some pretty good scenes in the arena. So fans that go to BMO, that go and celebrate Angel City, they make it tough for the opposition.
Yeah,
they provide an excellent environment, but I don't know if that's enough to sort of say like, oh, like they're the home team. They've got some of the rest. There's players who are coming in from the Spirit and have that Challenge Cup game. But we're just talking about that Challenge Cup game. We got to see MVP caliber performances from Trinity Rodman through these opening 7 weeks, and she did not play in that Challenge Cup game. If Julie Ertz is available, guess what? So is Andy Sullivan. She's likely to be available as well. Maybe there's going to be, some canceling out there, some neutralizing there in those areas of the midfield on the pitch. So I don't know if there's enough here for me on Angel City side to say, you know what, they're going to get this one. They're going to snap this undefeated streak from Washington Spirit. But let me tell you, players are motivated by that kind of stuff.
I know.
They're absolutely motivated by that kind of stuff. Like maybe Angel City's like, hey, you know what? This team is not coming in here and gonna leave here unbeaten. We'll see. I would love to see it. I would love for the upset because I too am going with the Washington Spirit.
Nice.
But I want to come back here and be wrong. I think that always makes for excellent episodes. But we'll see.
I mean, I don't want to be wrong. I want to be right with my picks first of all. And I just think those like Trinity Rodman not playing in the midweek. She's one of those players that wants to play every single game. She wants to run. She wants to press. She wants to score goals. So like she's going to be so energized at BMO Stadium. She wants to silence the crowd. I just think that the run that Trinity Rodman has been on, I mean, the off-ball work that Rodman is doing, I talked about it in last week's recap, and I will preach on it forever because this player is, you talked about it, MVP caliber in the first 7 weeks of this season.
100%.
And I just don't foresee her having a drop off. Her mentality has changed so much in year 3 in the NWSL, and she's still such a young player. She's only 20 years old, but she has this maturity about the way she plays, the way she understands game management, her IQ on the pitch, her ability to bring in other players. It's unmatched. And so I want Julie Ertz to play because I want to see how the Rodman Ertz Sanchez matchup happens in the midfield.
I feel that. I mean, look, or Alyssa Thompson and Robin. Let's see which of the wingers kind of take more of the space. I'm with it. I think there's going to be a lot of good individual battles here on the pitch, but I think Spirit have more to come out with the win on the end. So we're both going Spirit. We're split on the first match that we just made a pick on.